Welcome to Nightmare Fuel Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the stories. The Lighthouse at Widow's Point. I've been the keeper at Widow's Point Lighthouse for 27 years. Before me, it was my father and his father before him. 3 generations of Harmons, standing guard over the jagged rocks of Maine's most treacherous coastline. They say the sea takes what it wants. I've watched it claim fishing boats, pleasure crafts, even a small cargo vessel that strayed too close during a nor'easter back in '98. I've recorded every incident in the logbook, just as my father taught me. Date, time, vessel name if known, survivors if any. Most entries end with the same 3 words, none were recovered. But lately, I've been seeing ships that have no business being on these waters. Ships that, according to every record I can find, were lost decades ago. And I'm beginning to think that perhaps the sea doesn't just take, sometimes it gives back. It started 3 weeks ago, a Tuesday night in late October. The weather forecast called for fog rolling in after midnight, but nothing severe. I'd finished my evening rounds, checked the light was functioning properly, and settled in with a mug of coffee and my dog-eared copy of Melville. Moby Dick might be cliché for a lighthouse keeper, but some stereotypes exist for a reason. The first indication something was wrong came just after 2 a.m. The fog horn, which I hadn't activated, sounded 3 long blasts. I set down my book and crossed to the control panel. All switches were in their proper positions. The horn shouldn't have been operational. I silenced it manually and made a note to check the wiring in the morning. Old buildings have quirks. I've learned to live with them, but as I turned to head back to my chair, I caught movement through the window. Something large was moving through the fog. From the height of the lighthouse, I had a clear view despite the mist. It was a ship, but unlike any modern vessel I'd seen. 3 masts rose from its deck, sails furled tightly. A wooden hull, dark with age or paint, I couldn't tell. It was moving steadily, but there was no sound of engines. Just the quiet slap of water against wood. I grabbed my binoculars for a better look. The ship was perhaps a quarter-mile offshore, heading straight for the rocks. I rushed to the radio. Unidentified sailing vessel approaching Widow's Point. This is Lighthouse Keeper Harmon. You are on course for dangerous rocks. Please acknowledge and adjust your heading. Static answered me. Unidentified vessel, this is Widow's Point Lighthouse. Do you copy? You are in immediate danger. Nothing. I tried the emergency channel, then swept through all frequencies. No response. The ship continued its steady approach toward the rocks. I grabbed my coat and flashlight, intending to go outside and signal with the light when something made me pause. The fog had thickened, but I could still make out the ship's outline. It was closer now, close enough that I should have heard voices, the creak of rigging, any signs of life. But there was only silence. And then, as I watched, the ship passed directly over the jagged rocks that had claimed so many vessels before it. Impossible, the rocks would tear through any hull, especially one made of wood. But this ship glided over them as if they weren't there. I stood frozen, binoculars pressed to my eyes as the vessel continued toward shore. It should have run aground, but instead it simply faded, like mist dissolving in sunlight. One moment it was there, and the next, nothing remained but empty water and fog. I spent the rest of the night convinced I'd fallen asleep at my post and dreamed the whole thing. By morning, with sunlight streaming through the windows and the fog burned away, I almost believed it. Almost, but then I checked the logbook. Not my entries, but my grandfather's from 1947. The description matched exactly what I'd seen. A 3-masted wooden ship, moving silently through fog, passing over the rocks as if they weren't there. He'd even sketched it, a crude drawing, but unmistakably the same vessel. According to his notes, it was the Elizabeth Dane, a trading ship lost in these waters in 1897. All hands perished. I told myself there must be a reasonable explanation. Perhaps I'd read my grandfather's entry years ago and forgotten, and my mind had constructed the vision from buried memories. Perhaps it was a replica ship, though that wouldn't explain how it navigated the rocks. I might have convinced myself, if not for what happened the following night. The fog returned, thicker than before. I was ready this time, with camera in hand, determined to document whatever appeared. Around 3 a.m., the foghorn sounded again, though I hadn't touched the controls. This time it was a steamship. Black smoke poured from its single stack, though the engines made no sound. It moved with the same eerie silence as the sailing ship, leaving no wake in the water. I snapped photos as it approached, then passed over the rocks that should have torn its hull open. Like the night before, it simply faded as it neared shore. I rushed to develop the film in my small darkroom, but when the images appeared, they showed only empty water and fog. I searched the logbook again and found an entry from my father, dated 1972. The Mary Celeste II, a steamship that sank in a storm off Widow's Point in 1921, 37 souls lost. Over the next week, a different ghost ship appeared each night. A fishing trawler, a Coast Guard cutter, a luxury yacht, each one recorded in the logbook by either my father or grandfather. each one lost with all hands. I began to question my sanity. Was I hallucinating? Was there something in the water, the air, causing me to see things? I called my relief keeper, asked him to come early, said I wasn't feeling well. He agreed to arrive the following afternoon. That night, no ships appeared. I waited until dawn, camera ready, but the waters remained empty. I began to think whatever strange episode I'd been experiencing had passed. I packed my things, prepared to leave for a few days, get my head straight. My relief arrived at noon. Martin Keene, a retired Coast Guard officer who filled in when I needed time off. We've known each other 20 years but never been what you'd call friends. He's too rigid, too by the book for my taste. "Rough week, Harmon?" he asked, eyeing the dark circles under my eyes. "Something like that," I replied, not wanting to share my experiences. "Just need a few days away." He nodded, already checking the equipment, making notes on his clipboard. "Take your time. Everything looks in order here." I hesitated at the door, feeling I should warn him about what I wasn't sure. "The foghorn's been acting up," I said finally. "Might want to check the wiring." "I'll add it to the list," he said, not looking up. I drove into town, checked into the Harbor Inn, and slept for 12 straight hours. When I woke, the strange visions of ghost ships seemed distant, almost laughable. I spent the day walking along the shore, eating at the local diner, acting like a tourist in the town I'd lived next to all my life. That evening, I found myself at the Rusty Anchor, the bar where local fishermen gathered. I wasn't looking for company, but when Captain Mike Sullivan waved me over, I couldn't refuse. Sullivan had been fishing these waters for 40 years. If anyone knew the local legends, it would be him. "Heard you took some time off," he said, sliding a beer toward me. "Lighthouse getting to you?" I shrugged. "Just needed a break." He studied me for a moment, then leaned closer. "Seen anything strange out there lately?" My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" "Ships," he said quietly. "Ships that ain't supposed to be there." I set my beer down carefully. "You've seen them too." Sullivan glanced around the bar, then back at me. "Not me, but my daddy did, and his daddy before him. It happens every 50 years or so. Always starts the same way. The old foghorn sounds on its own. Then the ships come night after night. Ships that were lost," I said. He nodded. "The way my daddy told it, it's a warning, the sea giving notice." "Notice of what?" Sullivan's weathered face grew solemn. "That it's hungry again." A chill ran down my spine. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that after the ghost ships come, a real one follows, and it don't make it past those rocks." I thought about the entries in the logbook. My grandfather's notes from 1947, my father's from 1972, both followed by records of actual shipwrecks within days of the sightings. "Has anyone ever tried to stop it?" I asked. "Warn the ships away." Sullivan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Warn them with what?" "Don't sail past Widow's Point because my daddy saw a ghost. Coast Guard would have you committed." He wasn't wrong. What could I do? "Call the authorities and tell them I've been seeing ghost ships. They'd assume I was drunk or crazy. Maybe I was." "When's your relief keeper due to leave?" Sullivan asked. 3 more days. He nodded. "If I were you, I'd stay in town until then. Whatever's coming, let it pass." I considered his advice. It would be easy to hide here, let whatever was happening play out without me. But then I thought of Martin Keene at the lighthouse, unaware of what might be approaching. And what if a real ship was in danger? Could I live with myself if I did nothing? "I need to get back," I said, standing. Sullivan grabbed my arm. "Listen to me, Harmon. There's a reason your family's kept that lighthouse for 3 generations. There's a reason the Harmon name appears in every record of these events. You're part of it. You always have been." I pulled away. All the more reason for me to be there. The drive back to the lighthouse was tense. The night had turned foggy again, the road barely visible beyond my headlights. By the time I reached the keeper's house at the base of the lighthouse, it was past midnight. The light was on in the tower, rotating steadily as it should. I took that as a good sign. Perhaps nothing had happened in my absence. Perhaps Sullivan's warnings were just old fishermen's tales. I entered the house quietly, not wanting to wake Keene if he was sleeping. The ground floor was empty, the kitchen spotless as Keene always left it. I climbed the spiral staircase to the watchroom. Keene wasn't there. The logbook lay open on the desk, a pen beside it. The last entry was in Keene's meticulous handwriting. 2317 foghorn activated automatically. Possible malfunction. Will investigate. There was no follow-up entry. No sign of Keene. I checked the control panel. All systems normal, including the foghorn, which was switched to manual and off. I tried the radio. Martin, are you there? Over. Static. "Martin Keene, this is Thomas Harmon. Please respond." Nothing. I grabbed my flashlight and headed down to check the foghorn housing. It was located at the base of the lighthouse, facing the sea. As I descended the stairs, I noticed the main door was ajar. A trail of water led from the door to the foghorn controls. The control box was open, wiring exposed. Keene's toolbox sat nearby, a screwdriver lying on the floor as if dropped in haste, but no sign of the man himself. I stepped outside, sweeping my flashlight across the rocks. The fog was so thick I could barely see 10 feet ahead. "Martin," I called. "Martin, where are you?" My voice echoed back, swallowed by the fog. Then faintly I heard it, the sound of wood creaking, the gentle slap of water against a hull. I turned toward the sound, my flashlight beam cutting through the mist. At first I saw nothing. Then slowly a shape emerged, not the ghost ships I'd seen before, but a small rowboat coming toward shore. A figure sat in the boat, working the oars with smooth, practiced strokes. As it drew closer, I could make out more details. A man in what appeared to be an old-fashioned naval uniform. His face was pale in my flashlight beam, eyes dark hollows. The boat ground against the rocks and the figure stood. He was tall, thin to the point of gauntness. His uniform hung from his frame as if he'd lost considerable weight while wearing it. "Who are you?" I called. "What are you doing here?" The figure didn't respond. He stepped from the boat onto the rocks with surprising agility, then began walking toward me. There was something wrong with his movements, too fluid, as if he weren't quite solid. I backed away. "Stop right there, this is private property." He kept coming. As he drew closer, I could see his face more clearly. His skin had a greenish tinge, his eyes sunken. Water dripped from his uniform, his hair creating a puddle with each step. "What do you want?" My voice cracked. He stopped a few feet away. When he spoke, his voice sounded like stones grinding together. "Thomas Harmon," he knew my name. "Yes, son of William Harmon, grandson of Jeremiah Harmon." I nodded, unable to speak. "The pact continues." "What pact?" "What are you talking about?" The figure's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile, revealing teeth that seemed too numerous, too sharp. "The one your grandfather made, a lighthouse keeper for a ship's captain." "A life for lives." My blood ran cold. "I don't understand." "Every 25 years the sea takes its due. One soul to spare many. Your grandfather understood, your father understood. Now it is your turn." I thought of the logbook entries. The ghost ships followed by real shipwrecks. Except in 1947 and 1972, when my grandfather and father had been keeping the light. No major vessels lost in those years. "You're saying my family sacrificed people to save ships." The figure's hollow eyes bored into mine. "One soul freely given prevents the taking of many. And if I refuse, then the stellar dawn will founder on these rocks tomorrow night. 37 souls will join us in the deep." The stellar dawn. I knew that ship, a research vessel studying marine life along the coast. I'd spoken to its captain just last week over the radio, guided them safely past the rocks. "Where is Martin Keene?" I demanded. The figure gestured toward the water. "He was not yours to give. The sea has returned him." I ran to the shore, sweeping my flashlight across the waves. There, floating face down about 20 feet out, was a body, Keene's body. When I turned back, the ghostly captain was gone. The rowboat too. Only a set of wet footprints remained, leading to the water's edge and disappearing. I called the Coast Guard immediately. They recovered Keene's body, ruled it an accidental drowning. The official report suggested he'd gone out to check something, slipped on the rocks, hit his head, and fallen in. A tragic accident. Only I knew different. I spent the day researching, digging through old logbooks, town records, newspaper archives. What I found chilled me to the bone. Every 25 years, like clockwork, a series of ghost ship sightings preceded a major maritime disaster near Widow's Point. Except in the years when a Harmon was keeping the light. In those years, a single drowning occurred instead, always ruled accidental, always someone connected to the lighthouse but not a Harmon. In 1947, it was my grandfather's assistant. In 1972, a maintenance worker. And now, in 2022, Martin Keene. I found my grandfather's private journal hidden behind a loose brick in the lighthouse wall. The entries from October 1947 confirmed my worst fears. He had known what was coming. He had deliberately sent his assistant out during the storm. "One life to save many," he wrote. The burden of the Harmon name. My father's personal papers revealed similar knowledge. He had sabotaged equipment, ensuring the maintenance worker would have to make repairs during dangerous conditions. Both men had acted deliberately, choosing to sacrifice one person to prevent a greater tragedy. Both had lived with that choice for the rest of their lives, and now it was my turn. The stellar dawn was due to pass Widow's Point tomorrow night. 37 people on board, researchers, students, crew, all would die if the ship hit the rocks, unless I provided another soul. But I couldn't do what my father and grandfather had done. I couldn't trick someone else into dying in my place. I wouldn't, which left only one option. I spent my last day putting my affairs in order. I wrote letters explaining everything to the authorities, to the few friends I had, to the distant cousins who were my only remaining family. I left them with my will in a sealed envelope on my desk, along with the evidence I'd gathered. As night fell, I made my final rounds of the lighthouse. I ensured the light was working perfectly, that all systems were operational. The stellar dawn would have clear guidance past the rocks. Then I walked down to the shore. The fog was rolling in already, thick and cold. I stood at the water's edge and waited. It wasn't long before I heard it, the creak of wood, the slap of water. The rowboat emerged from the fog, the gaunt captain at the oars. "Have you decided, Thomas Harmon?" he asked as the boat ground against the rocks. "I have," I replied. "I'll go with you, but I want your word that the stellar dawn will pass safely." The captain's lipless mouth stretched in that terrible smile again. "You have it, one soul freely given, 37 spared. And after me, what happens in 25 years when there's no Harmon at the lighthouse?" The smile faded. "That is not my concern. The pact is with your bloodline. When it ends, the old arrangement resumes, which is, the sea takes what it wants. I thought of all the ships that would be lost in the future, all the lives cut short, but I had no children, no heirs to continue the grim tradition. The Harmon line ended with me. "It's time," the captain said, extending a cold, wet hand. I took one last look at the lighthouse, its beam cutting through the fog. For generations, my family had kept that light burning, not just to guide ships safely past the rocks, but to uphold a dark bargain made long ago. A bargain paid for in blood. As I took the captain's hand and stepped into the boat, I felt a strange sense of peace. My grandfather and father had chosen to sacrifice others. I was choosing to sacrifice myself. Perhaps that would count for something in whatever judgment awaited me. The captain pushed off from shore, and we glided into the fog. The lighthouse beam grew dimmer behind us. Soon it was just a faint glow in the distance, then nothing at all. I don't know what happens now. I'm writing this account on pages torn from my pocket notebook, stuffing them into an empty bottle I found in the boat. Perhaps someone will find it. Perhaps they'll understand what happened at Widow's Point Lighthouse. Or perhaps these words will sink to the ocean floor, joining the countless secrets the sea has claimed over the centuries. The captain says we're almost there. I can see shapes moving in the water below us, pale faces looking up. Waiting. The fog is thickening around us. The boat is starting to fade, just like the ghost ships I saw, and I'm fading with it. Remember this, the sea takes what it wants, but sometimes it can be persuaded to take less. The lighthouse at Widow's Point will stand empty now. The light will still shine, but the pact is broken. In 25 years, when the ghost ships return, there will be no Harmon to make the sacrifice. Unless someone finds this message, unless someone understands, unless someone is willing to take up the burden that my family carried for generations. But I wouldn't wish that on anyone. The captain is reaching for me now. His hand is no longer solid but composed of water and mist. As he touches my shoulder, I feel myself dissolving. The stellar dawn will pass safely tomorrow night. 37 souls will live, one soul freely given, the price of light in the darkness.